Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 64, and we're breaking down the best streaming services in a winner-take-all head-to-head tournament matchup. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, fellers. We took a week off, so it's good to be back. Savon, Brian, how are you doing today, gentlemen?
We're good. It's good to be back.
Yeah,
we had an
early start this morning.
Early start. Punctual as ever was Multiverse Mike, who's with us. Multiverse Mike doesn't have a voice, but he's here.
Yeah, that boy Mike got a crib now. That man doing it big. He a whole big boy now. He done got his big dog pull-ups, and he done graduated from Pampers to boxers, and he really out here. My son, congratulations to Mike.
That's a big jump, Pampers to boxers.
Yeah, that boy just doing flips, leaps.
Skip the underoos completely.
Oh yeah, no tidy whities. My son went straight to none of the Spider-Man draws. Nah, he just went straight to the Fruit in the Loom grown man stuff.
Well, so Mike is
that's sperm count stuff.
We're recording this without Mike today. He I don't know if he wants us to tell everybody, but he did buy a house, so send him congratulations. He and Anna are moving into their house this weekend and last weekend, so he was not able to make it. But shout out to them for for getting their lives together, for having a space they can call their own, to make their own. It's always good. Living the dream out there in New Orleans.
Amen.
What he didn't say, though, is that it's actually a house for ants.
Oh, my God.
It's very tiny. Actually, I don't know.
Zoolander
That's
reference.
a dumb joke. Sorry.
The first thing you're going to talk about is going to be real fast. PlayStation sent out an email this week to a bunch of PlayStation Plus subscribers announcing that they're going to change up the PlayStation Plus program in a little bit. June 13th, they're going to change it up so that they have actually 3 tiers of subscription now. Brian, do you subscribe at all? Actually, I wanted to clarify this. Before you did not.
Interestingly enough, I really didn't, right?
For a long time.
I've mentioned many times I don't really play online. But when GTA 5 dropped the new campaign, little mini campaign DLC that has Dr. Dre in it, and an older, mature Franklin, I was like, oh, I actually really want to play that. So I installed GTA 5 on my machine. I signed up for PSN. You get I think it might have came with 3 free months of PSN or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I played GTA 5 once, had a great time, and then Elden Ring came out, and I haven't touched it since. So,
do you need PlayStation Plus for Elden Ring?
Do you? I mean,
guess. There's an online component.
Which is a big part of Elden Ring, actually.
So maybe you need it.
Yeah, you definitely need the online because you need to summon people to help you.
Yeah. You need the messages of people
the messages
telling you
too.
Oh, that's a trap.
Hey, this important item is over here.
Wait, there's like a Waze system in Elden Ring. Like people put there's a cop car right there. Watch out, road hazard ahead.
It's a big part of the game for me, and and sometimes people are lying, right? There's no cop here. Yeah, there's a cop there. You about to get
you have to get owned. Yeah.
Also, they tell you, boss here, maybe try range battle, stuff like that is actually super helpful for a commoner like myself.
That's really interesting. It's an interesting way to community, crowdsource that, but build a community.
You can walk into a room and they might say a little thing you might see a little writing thing on the ground you can read, and it'll say "Watch out, right," and you walk into the room and then a monster comes and tries to ambush you from the right. Where if you didn't read that message, you would have just gotten snuck. Wow, but they don't let you just type in the message. You're limited to certain types of phrases. So,
okay, yeah. So you can't spoil the whole thing and be like, "Go 4 steps right, do this, take out this." It's not
it's usually it's kind of a little cryptic-ish, and sometimes you have to kind of read between the lines and infer a little bit.
I like that. All right. So these 3 PlayStation Plus tiers that we've got going on, there's one at $10 a month, $15 a month, and $18 a month. So those price jump the biggest from the first to the second. The first level is exactly the same as it's always been. It just allows you to, have online access. You get a free couple of games every month. The quality of those is up for debate. But the second tier that they're introducing will allow you to download hundreds of PS4 and PS5 games that you can play for free or as part of your subscription.
And how much is tier 2?
Tier 2 is $15 a month, so it jumps $5. And I think the value of that is really going to depend on what PS4 and PS5 games you can actually download there. The next jump is not as big. It's $18 a month. This allows you now to access the Classics catalog, which I think is their PS2 and PS3 games that they've made available or will make available. And then you're also getting access to cloud streaming, which I don't know how their cloud streaming is going to work exactly. But there is an Xbox counterpart to that, which is a similar thing. You can play off of your PC, like through a web browser. And you can play, even if you have a controller and you're, on the road, you can play on your PC. You can play with mice and keyboard, I guess, for some, if you need to. If you have a buddy who has another console, I think you can access that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how how that streaming part takes off, because PlayStation has not really done streaming gaming as far as I know. They have the PS Now that they've had before, right?
I've had that for a few years now. Actually, quite a few years.
Maybe that was their streaming service, and so now that's just going to be rolled into PlayStation Plus. But now that tier will also include access to the Classics catalog, as they're calling it. Gentlemen, does this get on your radar at all? Are you thinking, would you think about bumping up to the $15 a month or to the $18 a month? Or is this like, I barely am at the first tier. Like, what am I going to do with all this? Brian, where are you at?
Well, I mean, you obviously my answer is like
you're about to cancel the bottom tier.
Yeah, I think after my free 3 months, it's probably getting canceled. But that bottom tier, that doesn't change. That really hasn't changed the current PlayStation Plus plan,
which is great.
It sounds
which is not great, but certainly I think the optics of changing that bottom tier would have been pretty ugly for them.
Left with outrage.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of gamer outrage going on. So I think the PR move there was for sure to keep that level the same, everything available there, and just to add stuff on top of that, and then they can raise the prices later, as they want.
What's odd to me though, right? I do like the inclusion of all these classic games, or what, I don't even know if they're classic. For all we know, you're getting like Push Man 5, like. But ideally there's some notable titles in that list. I'm sure there are. Nintendo Switch's online subscription, which is $4 a month or $4.50 a month, automatically includes their roster of classic games, from NES through Nintendo 64. No, maybe that's not true about Nintendo 64. But you do get tons of classic content.
I didn't know that.
In that package automatically, and it's a nice benefit, right? Like you want to pop on, I don't know, Dr. Mario or something and play with a friend, like you can do it. No problem.
All right.
So them including this new tier, $15 to get not classic, but PS4 games is attractive, especially, I'm somebody who's still on a PS4. So getting access to those games, fairly interesting. So it's, in a way, it's a little surprising to me that the jump to the last tier is where you get the classic games, which are with the much older games, the PS2 games and whatnot, because those are much smaller in file size. Nintendo's already doing that. It seems like pretty simple to offer. There's probably less demand for that sort of thing. So in a way, you'd want all of that stuff to be included in a lower tier, right? The PS4 stuff sounds like it should be a little bit more of a premium.
I wonder if it's because in a way, the older stuff, they actually had to go back and like re-encode and rework, and so that took a lot more effort for them to get it on there. Whereas like the PS4 and PS5 stuff, they've already been, that stuff has all been coming.
They're already ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wonder if that's part of the deal, Or
No,
if they know that there's a lot of demand for the older games, just simply because no one has those machines anymore.
No, I think it's a mix of both. You have to keep in mind, people who play older games, especially as time goes by, more games get released and those games become older and older. That's a niche. That's its own niche market.
Is that how time works?
Yeah. But it's its own niche market, and people who want to play those games are probably going to be more dedicated regardless. But also, if you're someone who's trying to play a lot of older games, chances are you're not playing a lot of super new ones. So you're most likely open to just having a subscription model where you have access to all of those. Because, again, trying to buy old school games is a nightmare. Like, I remember before the streaming era when I wanted like an old PS2 game, you could only get it on eBay for a jumped up price for maybe a mediocre disc if it wasn't in production anymore. So for people who know before streaming was a big thing, how hard it was to get them, just paying a set price and just having access to it is great. Keeping in mind, if you're a modern gamer, you're already paying for your online service. So chances are you're getting such a great value. Those extra few dollars really don't move the needle for, the money you save trying to get an emulator, trying to find or salvage an old PS1 or whatever. So makes sense.
It's a little odd too, though, that, the games from the PS2 era that you'd really want to play, I think they've already been remastered somewhere, right? Like, I don't want to actually play the PS2 version of Shadow of the Colossus or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a nicely redone remastered version that came out for maybe the PS4, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true for a lot of the best games of, previous console eras. So, it's a little weird to me as well from that regard. Like, it really is niche, right? Like, who's hunting for the games that have not had that luxury? And what are those games? Why would you even want to play them? Like, they're not that good.
Well, I think the idea is you're casting a wide net. Like, individually, those games probably aren't going to be super popular.
Right.
But if you just have a big catalog of games that weren't popular enough to get a remaster, but were popular enough to where they still have like an old school fan base, well, you kind of get to appeal to a wide range of people who might not collectively be a lot for that one product. But if it's a bunch of these niche products, like, now you suddenly have a pretty big following.
Yeah, I could imagine people wanting to play like their childhood games, like Crash Bandicoot and some old Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. If that was made available in the catalog, I'm sure they would get in. Some Parappa the Rappa, for kids our age.
Yeah, Tekken for me and shit. I'll play if I could find like just an old original, like they haven't remastered Tekken, but if I could just play an old original of Tekken 3, absolutely. Now, what's interesting though, I was looking up more of the how they're offering this. The second tier actually seems really interesting in terms of free games you get access to, such as, they say it's Spider-Man, Miles Morales, God of War. Those are Brian, that sounds like something that's more up your alley of someone who likes to play games way years down the line or you're not in a rush. God of War came out, 3 years ago? That's not that long ago. If you can just get that for free as a part of an extra subscription service and Spider-Man and assuming it's more
last year.
Yeah, like that's a good value. And I think they've realized that Sony's putting that pressure. I mean, Microsoft's putting that pressure on them with we're gonna have a bunch of our games available for streaming. And I think this is Sony's way of saying, oh, okay, let's start giving some of our big flagship games for free if you're willing to subscribe.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Netflix streaming has been out for like 10 years at this point. Like, they need to move to this. This is not an option. They have to. People are just like expecting on-demand access to games now, and like to be able to like browse and then play something new. Like, that's just how we're going. Yeah.
Give us all the games where I just spend my time browsing and not playing any of them.
It's back to cable all over again.
All right, well, let's move it along. People out there, if you're listening or when you're listening to this, let us know if you'd consider moving up to that next tier where you got to spend $5 extra a month, but now you get access to free games or an extra set of games for PS4 and PS5. You may have noticed, if you've been following our social media feed on Instagram, that we did a battle of the streaming platforms. We'll call it like tournament this week. Royal Rumble, so to speak. So
crossing streams.
Crossing streams. Battle of who has the strongest stream. So
It's
what we
definitely
did,
me.
we came
You know,
Yeah.
when you're older, it's just like, never mind.
I thought it'd be not the opposite.
Maybe it's the opposite. Sorry.
Yeah. Started to get to that men of a certain age. So the way we set this up was we set it up a little bit like a tournament bracket style. We came up with what we thought were basically the 6 top streaming platforms. You know, we thought, would we add the Crunchyroll? No. Are we going to add in Vudu? No. Paramount Plus? Nobody wants that.
No.
So none of those lower kind of, you know, second tier, third tier groups, you know, Discovery Plus, they're not making the cut. They didn't make it into our Royal Rumble this year. Maybe if they start adding more content, they can make it in for next year. So
This is Champions League, fellas.
They didn't qualify. Like,
exactly, right? We can't be letting in just anybody here. So
playoffs.
we went basically like an old school baseball format here. We had 6 streaming services. The top 2 in our rankings got buys, and the ranking system was completely arbitrary and anecdotal based on our own experience and thoughts. So
very carefully calculated.
no, not at all. Hulu
Curated
and,
with excellence.
Hulu and Disney Plus, they got the first round buys. So we're not going to talk about them just yet. So we'll talk about the remaining big 4. Netflix, Apple TV, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime. So these are our first round matchups. Let's talk about Netflix and Apple TV first. And the goal of this exercise was twofold. We wanted to see both how did the 4 of us, and now that Mike's not here, so how did the 3 of us feel about the streaming services, which one we enjoy the most, which one we tend to default to, which one we're exploring and into, and which ones are kind of like, we're kind of lukewarm on these ones. And also kind of the same for does our perspective line up with the greater, wider, confidently wrong fan base out there? So we'll talk about both of those things as we go. First matchup, Netflix, Apple TV Plus. This was our 4-5 matchup in the bracket. Savon, how did the results go first online on Instagram?
Yeah, so Netflix got 33 votes to Apple TV's 9. And it was a pretty decisive victory. I'm with it. I voted. Like, now, did y'all vote? I voted.
I voted in
Netflix.
some of them. Yeah, I don't know if I voted on that one.
I voted on burner accounts.
I actually got a bunch of my friends to do fake votes and that. No.
Ballot stuffing.
Who's watching Apple TV? What does Apple TV Plus even have, yo?
Well, I think that's the interesting
What, Ted
question.
Lasso?
Apple
Is
TV
that
has
it?
a very small catalog in terms of their original content. Very small catalog, but you get movies that have been actually critically acclaimed. Coda won an Academy Award this year. Did they win Best Picture?
They did.
So
Best Picture.
Coda wins Best Picture off of Apple TV's platform. They have Ted Lasso, which obviously I'm a big fan of. I know you two kind of have mixed feelings on it. They've clearly thrown a lot of money at a fewer number of projects. Foundation, C, they do have a catalog, but it's not a catalog that's wide spanning.
I had Apple TV Plus for a year because I bought a new phone.
Yeah.
And I got it for free.
Yeah.
And I think I watched about 0 minutes of content. However, I will say...
I thought you watched Macbeth.
So that actually... I picked up a month subscription, which was just like $5, to watch something for work. It wasn't even Macbeth. I saw Macbeth in the theater. But that's another, point to your point, Wes. They have Joel Coen's and Denzel Washington's Macbeth, Tragedy of Macbeth, which is fantastic, and another Oscar bait type movie. They also have right now probably the most critically acclaimed sci-fi TV series, Severance, which is directed by Ben Stiller. And so I'm thinking I will pony up the $5 for 1 month to binge watch that show. But I haven't yet done it. So, I mean, they got, what's the percentage that Apple TV Plus got?
It's about 25%, 9 to 33.
Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah.
Also, Netflix as the number 4 seed. Oops.
Yeah.
Well, here's why, and to be fully transparent, I just put the rankings in as I thought maybe it would be. I find myself
okay, that makes sense.
I find myself less and less going to Netflix first. Like, I pull up the TV menu and I look at all the streaming things. Netflix is about my third or fourth choice.
Yeah, but legacy, you gotta give legacy titles. Like, you can't, even if they on the downswing, they still the big dog who been there for a minute. Because I mean, I don't disagree with you. Actually, I fully agree. But you gotta give them their respect. Like, these
100%.
new dogs on the block ain't been doing it for as long as Netflix. So
Yeah,
you
but
you
I
gotta
think,
give them props.
I think people are starting. Maybe this is just me. I'm starting to get a little bit of fatigued of Netflix's overwhelming number of bad choices. When I go into Netflix and I'm browsing, there's 150 things I'm looking at, and one of them or two of them I might want to watch that day, maybe. But there's just an overwhelming amount of content that I just don't want to see from them. And I think that to me is like, that's a turnoff because it's a waste of time especially for me, because I hate making choices. And I have a hard time choosing. I'm like, nah, I don't want to be in there, right? Whereas some of the other ones a little bit more funnel you towards like, here's your 5 options today, pick one. And I'm like, great, I got
you're
my
right,
one.
you're right, but you still gotta they the big dog on the block. You still gotta give props to prop. I agree with you. Everything you said, I agree.
Our audience bears that out, right? Like 75% just went for Netflix straight up over Apple TV Plus, and as we'll see in the subsequent rounds, that they have lasting power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people love themselves Netflix, and maybe that's also because they have older shows. Like, Jen watches Gilmore Girls, like, all the time on Netflix, so, like, just having those older, fun shows, people kind of like that, right? They just know it's reliable, they can go back to it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, everything you said was right, but, like, you gotta, there's a reason so many people still watch, there's a reason people agree with you and still probably watch Netflix.
Yeah. For sure. And if you look at the top 10 right now, it's a little bit sad. It's all like their reality TV programming stuff.
But people but that's the beauty and downfall of Netflix is that there's something for everybody. But if you want something for you and you want it curated, that's going to be harder.
Yeah. I think that's why everybody defines best in a different way. I think that's why I went away from Netflix as the best when, like, I don't think it's hard not to argue that, like,
they're the most accessible. And accessibility is something you got to give them props. Like, you got to, like, I think Crunchyroll is amazing, but if you don't like anime, Crunchyroll is a waste of money.
Well, maybe we should have put Crunchyroll in here. All right, so that's how the first matchup in round 1 went. Netflix dominates Apple TV Plus. There is a bigger beatdown, though, in the second matchup. HBO Max, the third tier, or the third seed here, against Amazon Prime Video at the 6th seed. Titles such as Invincible, Jack Ryan, Vox Machina, which we've talked about here, Grand Touring Show,
The Boys,
a ton of great efforts on their part, a bunch of loser efforts. We're not gonna lie, there's some duds in there, and then versus HBO Max, which obviously has like the DC catalog. It has what else? Warner Brothers' catalog is in there for the most part. You can find some older classics in there. They've got access to some of the CW stuff, so a lot of variety there, but maybe not a huge like what would you call it? A portfolio? It's not a huge portfolio in the way that
catalog.
Netflix
Oh my god!
See, Brian is the high class, highbrow. We got to bring that segment back.
You're welcome.
So should we say how the audience worked out, or you want to talk about where you were at first? Savon, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, mathematically, 91% people voted for HBO Max, 9% voted for Prime Video. So this was
these guys had an
10
election.
times as many votes.
They got an A. Somehow in an election, they got an A in a head-to-head poll.
Yep. Thank goodness the people who did vote for Prime Videos, nobody I know. So
okay,
that's encouraging.
We're not about to put them up on blast.
No, I'm not going to just drag. If I knew him, I was going to drag him. No,
what are the
but-
screen names? Let us know. Who are the 4 people that voted for Amazon
That'll be
Prime?
get that content in our Patreon. No, but it makes sense. The big thing is HBO, and this is kind of similar to Netflix. They have name recognition and just been around for a while. So regardless of what the quality of your content might be at the moment, that lends itself. It's like the Coca-Cola McDonald's effect of, even if it's not the best thing, it's recognizable and you can have an idea of what you're getting. And you know it's not going to just be god awful. Now, the thing about HBO is that they have name recognition and brand recognition, and they're damn good. You know, HBO's been around for decades. Like I remember, I don't know, HBO's been pumping out just high quality content for decades before they even started touching streaming. So they already had a loyal fan base. I'm sure a lot of us got HBO Max because we were like, oh, well, HBO been putting out good stuff. Why would they stop? And they didn't. So them
100%.
having a hold on the DC stuff really gives them a nice little foothold too into just like, that's a big niche that gets won over, myself included. But I think their biggest strength is that their biggest strength, and I think why they perform so well in this tournament, they drip feed their content and still go off classic weekly releases, and that makes for really good, you know, what it might call it, like scheduled viewing, or
Yeah.
when people all
Appointment
sit
viewing,
down.
yeah.
Appointment viewing is real, and that builds people having fun times, core memories, great positive associations with the show. And you know, I was paying for HBO, getting HBO when Game of Thrones was on, because hey, the squad was coming over and we were going to sit and watch it. And you know, and they do that that's a good model for just winning people over compared to the binging model, which, you know, I've already had my spiel about that, but I think this is partly why. I think Amazon doesn't put out bad content, but HBO is just established and people trust them more.
I miss those GOT parties. Good times.
Good times.
And you're
GOT,
absolutely right.
not GOP, just to be clear.
Not the grand old party.
If they couldn't read between the lines on that, or they just can't hear. And
But HBO definitely, they know how to do TV series. They invented prestige television, and they continue to pioneer it. You know, like consistently from Sopranos, even before the Sopranos, Game of Thrones, Succession, all the way to now to Barry, stuff like that. And I will say, even their HBO Max content, which is slightly different, to me, in a way, maybe a little bit of a filler in between HBO's core flagship stuff, is still really, really high quality stuff. I mean, like Taika Waititi has his own show, HBO Max.
Have you been watching it? It's kind of fun.
Station 11 is HBO Max, right? So
yeah,
all of these things are you know, the most exquisitely made television products out there, in my opinion.
That's a very corporate way of saying that.
And they have, you know, the movies on top of it, and you know, you get like a Studio Ghibli channel as part of it. You get you know, you get all of DC's animated stuff on it, right? Like, so it which is also, you know,
high quality
cream
stuff.
of the crop animation, American animation, right? So it really is a, you know, a good product, I think, and why it got 90% of the vote. Even though we have, you know, on this podcast, we've talked about a lot of stuff on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. I think what you're bringing up, though, is on HBO Max, if you look at the stuff that they put out, whether it's their series and talking head shows like John Oliver, whether it's How To with John Wilson, whether it's their movies, whether it's their series, all of that stuff, it's hard to say very much of that stuff is bad, right? Like you could pick any one of the boxes on the TV and you're pretty sure that it's going to be quality, right? It's going to be a good put together show or film or series or whatever it is, documentary. All of that is put together very well. Like Brian, you were part of that. It, you know, with the CNN.
I was. Oh yeah.
Stories, right? High quality stuff.
Disclaimer. I got some HBO Max money.
Ooh.
But I also got some Netflix money, to be honest.
Oh yeah, you did.
Nice.
But I like that HBO Max money. It's way better.
So I think this one totally makes sense that HBO just runs the table on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime has so many things that are bad that it's just hard to really sort through the noise there and find something that's good.
They're the new kid on the block, and they just haven't, they're going to have to make mistakes and learn lessons that HBO learned decades ago.
I mean, I think that's partly true, but they've also they've been around almost as long as Netflix. They've been around longer than Apple TV.
But not streaming, but not putting out, not producing visual TV and movie content. HBO, that's that's what they do this, you know?
Yeah.
That is what they do, yeah. And we don't know what to go to Amazon Prime for. We know what to expect from HBO. Amazon Prime is just it really feels like the Wild West in terms of their content strategy.
I think that makes it hard to go there, right? Like the barrier of just clicking on that title, you're like, I know when I get in there, I'm going to have to sort through a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't want to do all that. I'm trying to just pick something right now.
Yeah,
so,
it's like sense. Amazon. It's just
it is like Amazon.
That's whatever you can think of, it's there somewhere. If you sift through it.
Yeah, the genius of that though is a lot of people want their Amazon Prime shipping, and so it just comes with that. And so you get it, and it's there if you need it, and they can still sell ads and do all that.
And that's their Trojan horse way because this isn't their wheelhouse, so they have to take advantage of their platform to get into to win those folks over. HBO knows how to build a fan base, bro. That's what I'll tell you. Each show is very much allowed to be whatever it's meant to be, and it shows because hey, bro, we trust you to put out some good content. It's gonna be good, and the people who like it are gonna come to it, and they're gonna organically attach to it. And that's why they were so smart in picking up Young Justice. They knew something good when they saw it, and was like, hey, they got a fan base for this, and now the show's got another 2 seasons because of them. They know what they're doing, bro.
All right, so are we satisfied that the people and us coalesced around a consensus here? First round, we feel good about Netflix taking it out Apple TV and HBO Max besting Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I think
though the seedings are suspect.
Yeah.
What? I think those are great.
The two services that weren't music lost. Oh, that weren't, visual stuff lost because that wasn't their original thing. So
where would you have put Apple TV then?
Low.
Probably
low.
Yeah.
Low. So 5.
Low.
So 5. Oh,
it's 6 seed.
Yeah. You would have put it at the 6 seed below Amazon Prime.
Yes. If you didn't start off as an OG streaming service, you don't get a high seed.
Really? Even though they just won an Academy Award. That's the Academy Award, not just any. It wasn't just best sound.
That's recency bias. That's too much recency bias for me.
But then that's when this poll is taking place. What is the best now? How long are they? How long is Netflix grandfathered in? I don't know the answer to that.
I think body of work matters because their good stuff is still there.
All right.
I'm just basing it off of the amount of stuff I've watched on each platform. I spent way more time on Amazon Prime.
So quality versus
exponentially
quantity.
More.
All right. Quantity versus quality matters too.
Yeah.
All right. So second round here. This is our semifinal matchups. We now bring in our number 1 and number 2 seeds. The number 2 seed is probably suspect for sure. Number 1 seed, and I was trying to channel my inner highbrow Brian. I set Hulu as the number 1 seed. The number 2 seed, Disney Plus, given that they've got all of Star Wars, all of Marvel, all of the Disney catalog, and all of the Pixar catalog, all under one umbrella, and kind of in the same way that you can go to HBO Max and know there's something that's going to be good there, you can go to Disney Plus, and a vast majority of that stuff is very watchable, very good, or it's very nostalgic, which matters as well. So that puts our
rigged.
That puts our second round matchups as Hulu versus Netflix, HBO Max at the 3 seed versus Disney Plus at the 2 seed. So, Savon, how did it shake out between Hulu and Netflix, our 2 probably most famous streaming services?
Yeah, Netflix got 66% of the vote compared to Hulu's 34%.
So it's closer, but the number 1 seed goes down according to the fandom.
Well,
is this an upset?
I don't think so, because Hulu, I think, has a great catalog of watchable, chilled dinner content. I don't know if they have that highbrow stuff compared to HBO or even Netflix when they're peaking. But Hulu's biggest downfall compared to most of these other services is that they got ads. And I don't get down. I don't know what y'all. I don't get down with ads. Ads absolutely ruin things for me, and the fact that and also I don't pay for the Hulu. At least my mom pays for it. Cool, that's the family one. But ads, I can't get down with it. And the other services, regardless of what I'm paying, I pay for other services though. But regardless, the other services I pay for, like I pay for Spotify for the family, I do not have the one with ads. Because if I had to listen to one ad on Spotify, I wouldn't pay for it.
There's an ad-free Hulu, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's the more expensive one.
Yeah, exactly. The others, like Netflix, that's not even on the table. Disney, that's not even on the table. HBO Max, that's not even on the table. So
Netflix is coming soon.
Yeah, and if Netflix has ads, guess what? Then I'm probably going to unsubscribe because ads are like a deal breaker for me. Yeah. I think for most people, they feel that way.
They're like, subscriber base is not advancing as fast as they would like, and their stock is plummeting. So they're like, let's put ads and drive away more consumers. Yep. But it's interesting that Hulu got the #1 seed. I think maybe Wes was thinking that I have mentioned previously on this podcast that Hulu on the low is the best streaming service.
I was.
Do I actually stand by that?
I actually listened to you.
I mean, I think I was saying that at the time, just one is recency bias, but also Hulu I think why I say on the low is the best is because they have the FX catalog, which to me is another one of those outlets that just consistently puts out really, really great content that I'm always satisfied with basically anything that you throw on there, right? So whether it's Atlanta or What We Do in Shadows or
Fargo,
Devs or Better
Archer.
Things, Fargo, Archer, yeah.
Walking Dead, right?
No, that's AMC.
That's AMC, cool.
But yeah, like FX is just they put out like great stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people who work there know how to shepherd these projects into life. And then on top of that, you get Abbott Elementary, you get the stuff that's on ABC, you get Modern Family, shows that to me that are like, they're like great
Rick and Morty
and kind of shows, right? Yeah.
You get a lot.
And then like it's a solid, very, very solid offering.
What's the one with
I totally
the white
forgot
hats?
that they have ads.
The ladies.
Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale. This is a huge show.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Savon, let me drop some comparison on you. Hulu, no ads, $13 a month. Netflix, no ads. I think they're $17 a month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want the premium, which is 4K, you need to pay $20 a month. So you pay $7 less per month for Hulu with no ads. So I don't know that you can complain that Hulu has ads when it's $7 less than Netflix for their access to the no ads thing.
But if you're grandfathered in on Netflix, you might be paying a lower rate, which I definitely am.
I am as well.
How are you? What do you mean you're grandfathered in? They just raised the prices for everybody.
Has it happened yet? I don't know if it.
Yeah,
has
like
yet.
have you people already like prepaid for X amount or whatever? Does that change?
I don't think you can prepay like a whole year.
I don't think I have seen that in my credit card bill yet.
Okay.
So as far as I know, I've just been paying this like low rate for a very, very long time. And that's where the whole legacy thing also comes into play.
Yeah, you don't even look at your cost anymore. They've just been raising it up on you, and you don't even know. And you're okay with
No,
it.
I look at it. It's still like $13 or whatever I've been paying for like years.
This is what I would say. All that's true, Wes.
Yeah.
I still just on principle. To me, it's a principle thing. I still just don't rock with ads. I get it. Also, this doesn't take away. Also, I never disagreed about the content piece. Also, you just went and lambasted Netflix, and I sat and agreed with you on all that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
No,
this
I'm
isn't a.
Yeah. The
also,
thing,
I'm
what I'm
HBO
saying
Max
though
into
is
this.
like I think it makes sense to offer an ad-free tier for people who don't want to spend an extra $3 a month or whatever. They're like, it's a little steep. I get the option of having the no ads version, right? Or the ads version. And for people like you who say like, hey, I'm not into that. I'd rather have an ad-free experience. I'd pay a little bit more for that, right? But to say like the fact that they have ads period is a knock against them, I don't think that is, as long as you can turn them off, which you can.
This is one of the ones.
And for less than paying for Netflix.
Look, out of all the services that I share and pay for and don't pay for and the ones and all that, the way all that shakes out and the way it's split out, Hulu on my end ends up having ads. So even though that doesn't, so because that doesn't affect my financial bottom line, I'm going to hold that against them because that negatively impacts my viewer experience.
It's all about Savon's experience, not about whether he could change that experience, just about whether that is his experience. I see.
Well, to be fair, I don't pay for any of these services either, except for Netflix.
Like put it like this: if my grandma was paying for the family Spotify account, but she's paying for it, but I'm paying for like Netflix, but the version of the Spotify she gets, I get ads. That is still going to be something that's like for me a knock against Spotify.
But that's a knock against your granny.
Yeah, but she's gonna go. She's gonna go with whatever's the cheapest one.
It's part of the ecosystem, though.
Yeah,
it's
like
part of the experience. Like
she's gonna go for the cheapest one, which I don't blame her for. For me, it's just that option being on the table lends itself to the floor of your experience being potentially lower.
So here's a good
that makes no sense.
Analogy.
No
like
sense.
if on Netflix you're complaining about like what they're serving up to you. I mean, let's say it wasn't the top 10, but they're just, let's say, for example, they're serving up to you like all these reality shows that you're not interested in, but they're doing that because maybe you share the account with somebody who is watching all of those things on that account.
Jennifer.
That's still, and then that impacts your perception of that platform. But even though it might be, Jennifer's fault. Damn, Jennifer watching all those reality shows, whatever. But that's still part of their ecosystem, right? Like that's just like how you're experiencing the platform and how the platform is generating all that stuff to you. So I think what Savon is saying is that like because ads is part of the ecosystem of Hulu, that is one way that you could get stuck experiencing that, right? Like it hasn't been, it's not part of their machinery to enable you to to just like weed out that experience altogether. And I think that is a legitimate knock, for sure. Right. And especially when people are always going to be like, what's the cheapest option? You're going to take the cheapest option.
Yeah. Like I don't blame my grandma for paying the cheapest option because how she views those streaming services is different than how I view them. So, and if I was the one paying for Hulu, I would get the app, but I'm paying for other stuff. So that's just how it shakes out. Like the stuff I'm paying for, I have the ad-free version. So like,
I disagree with you guys.
I get where I fit into the ecosystem. I'm just acknowledging to Ryan's point. In the Hulu end of the ecosystem, I end up on the ad side of it, which to me is like, oh, that's whack. And it's like, oh,
but
why
this
are
is
you
such
ads
an
in the
easy
first
fix.
place? Whack. Well, the fix is for me to start paying for the Hulu, and then that changes up how everyone's paying for our services. So it's not an easy fix.
But.
And I'm not gonna tell my grandma. I'm not gonna call my grandma and say, "Hey, upgrade the Hulu." I don't want to watch these ads.
Well, then it doesn't matter that much to you, or you just stop watching Hulu. I guess is probably what happens.
I'm not going to antagonize my family over $5.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna just be upset on the podcast and talk about this is what I'm like.
It's one button. You go to the webpage and you click the one button. I want the ad-free experience. Done. The problem is solved, and it's less than Netflix.
Dude, like it's like on Netflix, right? Like let's say like a lot of people use your account, right? So you don't have the
but you can set up a different account.
Accounts. No. But that's what I'm saying. Like you might max out on those number of accounts, right? And so you're just like stuck using somebody else's login or in their particular corner of Netflix, right? You have like 4 or 5, right, profiles that you can make. So you get stuck
for
using
your
someone
own
else's
Netflix.
profile. No, but that's what I'm saying. Nobody's going to pay for all this stuff on their own. It's all about a give and take, right? Like I pay for Netflix in my family. I don't pay for any of the other services, just like what Savon is saying, right? And so that impacts how you experience these things. You're not going to just like start ponying up for it. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
That's because that defeats the whole point of us splitting this across the first place.
Otherwise,
but then you don't get to complain about it.
Situation.
But then
yes,
you don't
get to
complain
complain about it because you're still you're still consuming the content, right? Like, it's
I think
still
you can acknowledge that is part of your experience. You can acknowledge that that's part of your experience, but that's not a knock on the service. You didn't pay for the service.
It's definitely a knock on the service. Yeah, they know what's happening, right? Like they are enabling this. This is part of the like social contract of streaming because they also know this is an untenable situation. that like multiple people can have access. They could easily build into it that only one IP address.
Yes.
You only one profile. That could all be part of the machinery. They're enabling us to share. And this is what happens as a result, right? They're just trying to build up a base, right? And so I think there are definitely some things coming down the line where all this is going to change for sure. But in our current moment, how we experience it, in whatever way we experience it, is part of the machinery. It is like something that people at the company are actively thinking about and enabling. So, and this is one of them, to offer the ad version, and some people are going to get ads, and it's not going to be a great experience.
So because they want to help people, not help, they want to offer a lower tier of their service that people want and will actively pay for. Like your grandma is actively paying for the ads-free version.
She doesn't want ads. She doesn't want ads. She's paying
nobody wants ads. They just want the
lowest tier. But she chooses, right? Okay, but she chooses that. Like when you start, they give you the options. They're like, here's this version and here's this version.
But Hulu could also offer a lower tier without ads, right? Like they could up their prices and still have a lower tier without ads. And they also could just offer an option the same price without ads. That's also in their power. Remember, this is Disney. Hulu is still a Disney product, right? Like, so all these things are still possible within their ecosystem. They're actively making the choice to have this available.
Yes, because they know that people will choose the lower one if they're concerned about that and they don't care as much about ads, versus if people care strongly about ads like Savon, then they'll choose the one that has no ads.
I care more about regular people money than they money. like that's just, but also I have very strong, I'm very
Netflix is in general, but you're saying that like let's say there's a hypothetical where Hulu just drops the lower tier. They move everybody up and they say you have to pay the $13 a month for ad-free experience per month. Still $7 less or $5 less than Netflix per month. No ad-free. You're saying you would rank them higher. That to me makes no sense. You could literally just do that right now.
I just think ads being a part of any viewer experience is just something that just takes it, that just from like just a personal philosophical level, that takes it down a little bit for me. And I hold it against you because that's why I went to streaming in the first place, was to get away from ads. So when I see ads start to get kind of slid back in, even if it's under the guise or tied along with like a lower price, to me, that's still such a knock in general on what the viewer experience should be, that I like hold that against them, even if in what I'm paying for, I might not have to deal with that. Because I've had ad-free Hulu for a while too before, and I still was like, oh, the fact that there is a version with ads is still whack. Because again, for some people, they're going to go with the cheaper option, which makes sense because regular people got to save money. Yeah. I'm like, cool, sucks that you get stuck. I hold it against them to be like, oh, y'all still got to subject people to ads.
Yeah, why are we even paying when you have ads? That's like, ugh. Anyway, this is obviously a very interesting second round.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun...
All right, the next matchup was not as close as I thought it was going to be. We have HBO Max at the 3 seed against Disney Plus at the 2 seed. This one, a little bit of an upset here, I think, but maybe not in the way that things shook out. Disney Plus, 13 votes. HBO Max, 23 votes. So HBO Max beats out Disney here to earn their spot into the finals. Gentlemen, we talk a lot about Disney Plus shows on this show. We talk some about HBO Max as well. How are we feeling about this?
I think this show only exists because of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
What else would we talk about? Like, obviously, we're grasping for straws right now.
To me, this one is surprising, given that there's a wide range of people that'd be interested. Well, not a wide range. There's a very like clear target of Disney Plus, which is like the Marvel and Star Wars crew and the Pixar and Disney crew. And for what that is, there's a lot of good options here. You have all of the Marvel catalog except Spider-Man. You have all of the Star Wars catalog. You have all of the Disney and Pixar catalog in there. And if you're a parent, you definitely want to have Disney Plus because you have access to all these Disney titles. if you're like us and you like sci-fi stuff, or you like fantasy, you like comic book stuff, action movies, you're going to get it because you want access to the Marvel and Star Wars stuff. To me, that makes this like a really strong option. Like if I was trying to get rid of streaming services, Disney Plus would not be one of the first ones I'm cutting.
Really?
No.
For me,
would it be the last one?
Yeah, I don't know. But I feel like it would be probably top 2. It's one of the ones I go to quite a bit.
Disney Plus is niche, dog. Like all that stuff you named.
But niche doesn't mean not the best.
Yeah, but niche means not the most popular. And this is a poll where people are going to vote for what's most popular. This is a wide range of people who voted for this. So it's not just going to be
a wide range of people. Our friends.
Range?
Our friends.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. But
it's the people that listen to our podcast.
Okay. But,
who you would think
That's what I was saying.
They would go with.
It's a little surprising.
Those niche options, because it is a niche audience.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you got to think because there's all kinds of wide ranging options across all streaming services. So you can't just pretend that Disney Plus has. Like, yeah, they have these certain IPs, but okay, HBO Max has all their own unique IPs as well. So it's not like they have a monopoly on just all content in a way that no one's only going to watch this stuff. But here's the big one. Disney Plus operates off of nostalgia, and I mean, they operate heavily off of nostalgia.
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
it.
The meat and potatoes of their content is stuff that's existed for decades already. And a lot of that stuff is good to rewatch once for some nostalgia value, but that's not going to be something that people want to rewatch and go back to, because when it's all said and done, Little Mermaid came out 40 years ago or 30 years ago. That's not about to be just something people watch on the regular. But even Netflix and HBO, they constantly have new concepts, totally new original ideas. Even Disney Plus's new stuff that are cool executions. They're executions of characters and IPs that have existed for decades. Like, as much as I'm enjoying parts of Moon Knight, the Moon Knight character's been around for decades. There's nothing new about the idea itself compared to HBO, which is pumping out concepts that have just never been done before. And so that lends itself to just casting a wider range of people. And I say this as someone who loves Marvel content. Y'all know I love Star Wars, Marvel, all that. I love the shows. But that's a specific type of show and content I like. So if I had to decide of which of my services I'm cutting, Disney Plus is probably the first, just because as much as I love those shows, that's not what I just put on when I get off after a day of work.
Well, it's interesting because the Marvel and Star Wars content is really wide-reaching in and of itself. Even though we're talking, it is like, you know, comic book superhero stuff is kind of niche.
Yeah, but you don't get to $1 billion
sort
in
of
box
not
office
anymore, right?
Yeah, you don't get to $1 billion
exactly.
in box office just because you're a niche audience or like
Marvel,
material.
like to the fanboys and fangirls and the fan non-gender conforming peoples, right? Like Marvel, you know, like hardcore Marvel is niche. However, consuming Marvel is not, right? Like it's like a common touch point for everybody. Like everybody has seen, you know, Black Panther. Everybody has seen, you know, Infinity War. And so, like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised by the results, but I'm also encouraged by the results, because that means that even though people definitely have Disney Plus, people are definitely watching the shows, the Marvel shows, Mandalorian, right? Like these are, you know, things that wide-reaching net, but I think people like them, and that's fine. But it shows to me that there's still an embrace of other stuff out there. We don't live in a Marvel only, you know, world. Thankfully, like as much as I love the content, as much as I love the movies, like there is life outside of it, and it seems like that is much more appreciated, at least according to our fans. Which again, which is the, you know, the fanboy set for the most part.
I'm about to hit you with something. Because I'm still going to like stay on this, like they have more niche content than the other streaming services. And this is the big one. They don't put out any adult content, period. That's a lot of just stuff that's a lot of people who you just lose. And us included. You know how much, like just how many shows we watch that's just about mature situations and adult stuff and maybe need that extra layer of grit and grinding. We just talked about how HBO lets them do whatever they want creatively. Disney Plus does not let you do that. You're not about to have a show of people getting violently murdered or lots of swearing or just a deep story about even just like racism or sexism or just something awful or awful historical event. They don't do that kind of content because it's Disney. That in itself, I think, makes you niche. Every other service we talked about, even with their issues and stuff, they have quality adult content. And Disney not having that, like that firmly puts you in a niche market, in my opinion. Again, I think that's reflecting in the votes.
Wait, didn't the Falcon solve racism at the end of the series? The look on Savon's face right now. Classic.
It's true though. Like, even as good as Moon Knight is, and I'm enjoying it, it's clear that it's like, yo, this is still Disney Plus, so we can't just, there's only so gritty, so violent we can get. And that, that's a knock. You gotta hold that against them at a certain point. They're the only people who are handicapping themselves like that.
I'm like curious as to how people were deciding their vote on this stuff, right? Like, were they going by, where they spend their most time, or who has the best shows qualitatively, or
I'm sure they thought about all
or
of
do they
that,
just
right?
think like, what's a well-made service, like who has like a slicker interface, who has the best prices, right? Like, I'm kind of curious, like what were the key criteria for people. And so, in terms of, if you just talked about like how much time you spend on it, Disney Plus might be up there, but in terms of what you actually want from a streaming service, as you said, Savon, probably not, because it doesn't have a diverse offering at all. It's like, it's all very one lane, one dimensional.
Yeah.
It's like two
I
lanes.
watch it for my Star Wars Marvel stuff, and that is it.
That's all they have.
Yeah.
That's my point.
But that doesn't
I
make it bad.
The one-off Beatles.
I never said it was bad, but it limits like, it does put a limit on just how wide-ranging and how appealing you can be. Like, my mom and brother, who watch all kinds of streaming stuff across different platforms, have zero reason to watch Disney Plus. I'm thinking of plenty of people in just my network and life where I'm like, they're not into superheroes or Star Wars, so there's no reason for them to get Disney Plus. That's a waste of money for them.
Yeah.
That's more people than you think.
That's an idea of like less popular versus best. And maybe it still falls short on best, but those are two different things. And I think that goes to what Brian is talking about, is like, people are making these decisions based on maybe where they spend the most time, or it could be what their experiences is and all of that. I feel like also it depends on your taste too, right? If you're a parent and you're like, dude, Disney Plus like really is awesome because like I get to watch this with my kids and my kids love it, like that bumps it up a few points, right? And if you don't, then you're like, like I really love it. But if you're into Marvel and Star Wars like I am, I'm like, that gives it a few more points. Like, I can't go anywhere else to watch these things. And like, I really enjoy watching some of the, like Star Wars movies. I really enjoy watching the Marvel movies. The Marvel shows have been, quite a bit of fun. Like, if I'm thinking about where I spend my time, I spend quite a bit of time on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the answer for the voters. It's a mix of all those things, because people value, even in our conversation, we clearly value different things in a service. Like, I watch Disney Plus, but clearly I hold it in lower standing compared to the others because we value different stuff. So if anything, this just shows
that we do.
Yeah, but if anything, it shows that when you weigh all these things together, even though Disney Plus has a lot of stuff going good for it, clearly they leave something wanting.
Yeah.
And again, like, my theory is
with you.
The lack of adult content and variety. Like, it hamstrings you.
It could be.
Yeah, so Disney Plus a 2-seat? I don't know.
Well, it is what it is. We're moving on. Let's go to the finals then. This is where I really want to get into it. But actually, we've really had this conversation kind of in full, so we may not need to get too into depth into this. Our finals ended up being Netflix at the 4 seed, upsetting Hulu, and HBO Max in the 3 seed, upsetting Disney Plus. These two titans of the streaming universe. And HBO Max is a relative newcomer. They just started, 2 or 3 years ago? Something like that? At the end of Game of Thrones? Or maybe it was like 3 years ago.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Interesting results here. The idea about the old head, or the, having the experience, and that needing to pay off here. The newcomer takes down Netflix. Savon, what were the results in our final matchup here?
Yeah, final matchup, it was 72% HBO, 28% Netflix. So
that is a beatdown.
Yeah, HBO won pretty handily.
So, Savon, are you on board with that? Would you agree with the people that HBO Max is the better streaming service than Netflix? They have the strongest stream.
I think when you're talking about the two of the real big dogs in the ecosystem, I think the best comparison is that Netflix is more of a chain restaurant that is more accessible to the average person, but probably the cream of the crop isn't good on average, or it doesn't peak as high, but it's accessible. And HBO Max is maybe one of those more, it's not a chain place. They're kind of more of a fine dining establishment. They're a lot bougier or not nicer presentation, but people don't want to go get a steak dinner always on like a Thursday night or a Wednesday night.
But what is something that they've put out in the past 2 years that you've been like, yeah, man, that is high quality steak dinner? Insecure? Is that their best show?
I mean,
HBO Max?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
What are you putting up there as their top? It's not
White
Euphoria.
Lotus, Succession,
Westworld, and
Succession.
Yeah, everybody talks about.
Is it
Succession
HBO?
It's HBO Max.
Yeah, we're talking about HBO Max.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's all it's all their stuff. But like we just talked about Peacemaker. Didn't
Not
they have
top
that
tier.
sex in? I mean,
Also
even if it's
not
not top tier, it's quality content though. Like, it doesn't have to be all just top tier stuff because you can't.
Well, you just made the
streaming
steak
service
dinner argument. That's all I was trying to get to.
Yeah, but it's not just that. Like I'm saying, it's not just the top tier stuff. They have top tier stuff, but they also, even their stuff that's not their top tier, top of the line stuff, it's still really good.
All right, so where do you stand, Savon? HBO Max?
They
or
deserve
Netflix?
it. HBO Max is the higher ceiling of quality content.
All right,
And,
so you're going HBO Max.
yeah.
I voted HBO Max here as well in this matchup. Brian, what did you go with?
Of course, HBO Max.
All right.
So should we let's really address Netflix?
Yeah,
right?
I think what does this mean for Netflix here, though?
Like in our little tournament, Netflix had a walk through the park to get to the finals, and to only be basically, demolished and castrated in the finals. And so what is it, how do we interpret that, right? Like, my thinking is kind of like what Savon has been saying, is that, Netflix is a legacy service. It's big, it's giant, it's a catch-all in a way. They've set the pace for everybody. People are used to it. They remember when Netflix was having, its golden era. I think it's post-peak right now, and the stock prices reflect that. But we remember when Netflix was like really hot, and that's where everything was, and you had to own Netflix, right? So I think that's what takes it to the finals. But in recent years, right, in the past couple of years, I mean, like, sure, there's Squid Games and Bridgerton and some like other random shows that seem to like make it into the zeitgeist. But when you actually like spend time with those shows, like they're it's like passing fair, right? It's just like, this is a good, I don't know, In-N-Out burger. This is a good Shake Shack burger.
Yeah. It's not Michelin 3-star.
Yeah, it's not the thing that I'm gonna remember years and years on end, like afterwards.
I forgot about Squid Game.
For being like this exquisite experience that I only had, right? Like Squid Game was great and great fun and stuff.
It was really good.
But is it the best thing out there? Definitely not. I think we even talked about that on this podcast, right? Like, it was a really, really fun watch, right? And so that's part of it, right? Like, Netflix creates bingeable content, right? That has always been their strategy, and they continue to do that. But because of that, I think the product ultimately falters, right? Like, you can feel it in the episodes that are just like concocting these things to get us to, keep us pushing us through the next episode. And then suddenly we've consumed 10 hours of this thing. We don't even really know what we watch, and we're kind of in a tizzy, and we're like, that was fun. And then moving on.
And in some ways we love that. In some ways we love that. In some ways we don't love it.
Yeah, it's eating junk food, man.
Yeah.
It's like eating the entire bag of Cheetos. Like, yeah, I kind of loved it, and I hated it at the same time.
I hate myself for it.
Consumers don't want to admit that this type of content is best gradually released and all at once, because people don't have self-control, and it's Like, it's not a way of
People
like
is
that.
me.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is the truth. That model of consuming content isn't good for building a long-term fan base or invested interest in the show, because all of the little things that goes into making people like a show, you lose with the binging model. Again, if you could binge through Game of Thrones when it was all released, it would not be nearly as good because there's no time for people to sit and talk Monday at work about what happened. Like, I talk about this with Squid Game, right? The episode when you think that the old man, the OG, the original dies, you know, none of us had, there was no week to wait and speculate and think about it and talk at work. You just watch the rest of the season and then you find out that's not the case. But imagine how much hype the show would have had if we had a whole week just talking about, is he alive? Is he not? Theories, people putting on their tinfoil hats, and you don't know the answer till 4 weeks later because it's only one episode a week. Like that's how you get red wedding type moments that have big stamps in the cultural, like, shared experience. Netflix does not allow for collective shared experiences with their model, and I think they're getting burned for it now because they're just pumping and dumping these shows.
Yeah. It's basically, did you binge it when it came out over the weekend? You haven't? Okay, we can't talk about it. So it's forgotten, right? You missed the opportunity, you missed the window, and then the window never comes back. And you know, I feel that way about so many of their shows. Like I binge watched 3 seasons of Ozark. I have not watched a single episode of the new season just because it wasn't part of the binge, right? Like season 4 wasn't available to me when the binge happened. And so now I'm just kind of, you know, I haven't built up anything. I haven't built up any anticipation. I haven't been part of any conversations around it. Like, yeah, it's just something I watched now. And so it becomes disposable at that point. Like, even though there might be, you know, a new season. And that's true of many other shows that I've watched on Netflix. That happened to me with House of Cards. That's happened to me with The Witcher. I hope it doesn't happen to me with Arcane, but it might. Like,
I think Netflix is I honestly think Netflix would be in a better case if they legitimately just released them week. If they just did a weekly model, because I don't think the quality of the shows themselves are bad, but there's a reason movies don't do. You know, the reason they don't do 10-hour movies in the theaters, because they know your attention span ain't gonna hold on to all that, and you're gonna stop retaining information. Like, there's a reason we get salty when a movie's 2.5 hours. Like, okay, so how you gonna sit and watch a 2.5-hour movie and be mad it was long, but you'll watch 4 hours of this show you binge at your crib? Like, that's not any different.
So when I was thinking about the rankings, I was also thinking about when would you get rid of them? Like, if you had to cut back on your services, like you were, you know, saying like, hey, we got to cut back the budget. Which ones are you cutting? To me, at this point, Netflix is probably going. That's like one of the 4th ones I'm keeping. Like, yes, I'm keeping HBO Max. I'm for sure keeping Disney Plus. I think then it's Netflix and Hulu for me. And like Brian said, Hulu has good content that like I aspire to watch to. You know, like I want to watch Atlanta. I want to watch.
Oh, that's
TV.
interesting. That aspirational watch.
And
not a lot of that on Netflix.
As a new one.
And there isn't anything on Netflix where I'm like, damn, like I really got to keep the service around for that. It just isn't there. I don't want to watch Selling Sunset. I don't want to watch whatever, you know, what is the one they're doing now with Nick Lachey? I don't want to watch that show.
Oh, I watched it. It was funny.
It's cool. You could binge it real quick and then cancel.
I
like
mean, I could, but
partner swap show.
Is that what it was?
Anyway.
I just don't. None of that like interests me, you know. Like, and at this point, I could be like, hey, you know, I do browse through Netflix and I try to find something, but yeah, I'm not interested in like their movies aren't good. They're fun, but they're not good.
Oh well, actually, they do make incredible movies in recent years. All the top contenders for Oscars, like Roma, The Power of the Dog,
Bird Box, right?
Mank,
Bird Box.
Not Bird Box.
I thought
But
Bird
still,
Box won
still
awards
like
or something.
one of those movies that, like, you know, really grip people.
Right.
So,
Right.
The Irishman, right? The Scorsese movie, right? Like, so they actually do have that top tier, you know, like
All right.
very
No, maybe
critically
you're right.
acclaimed stuff.
I never saw any of those.
That's
though.
there, but it gets buried,
Yeah,
you know, and exactly, like,
I never watched them.
They
You
hurt
don't-
their brand.
Yeah,
It's
and
quantity over quality often.
Exactly.
So you lose track of what's quality. and you don't trust it.
All right, so we all in agreement there in terms of like that the overwhelming choices sometimes actually hurts Netflix's stand here, but it seems to do really well. I mean, they beat out Hulu, and I think Brian would make the case that Hulu has really great content, and maybe as a function of like how you experience it, Brian enjoys Hulu more. I
definitely spend more time on Hulu.
Yeah.
I would say I enjoy Hulu a little bit more, but we do have the ads version, and that does take away from it, like Savon said. But I'm fully aware that I paid for the lower tier, so I'm not gonna knock them for that. And yeah, so I mean, I think this makes sense that HBO Max takes down Netflix, given that Netflix is it's sort of hard to think about, like, well, what really is good on Netflix, right? Like when you think about Netflix, you just really aren't thinking, oh man, they got good stuff.
They have a bloated catalog, and they struggle with building a fan base for a lot of their, original content. Like that's just what it. Again, so if you have like a comfort show you like to watch, Netflix is always going to be good in that regard because they have a lot of dope syndicated shows. Although they've lost some in recent years, which hurts them. But
yeah,
like that's the thing. They gotta adapt because they're falling off.
Yeah, remember when MySpace got replaced by Facebook, and then Facebook got replaced by like Instagram and Snapchat, and then now those things are getting replaced by TikTok. I mean, this kind of feels very similar to that. We're reaching the inflection point in time when HBO Max feels like the V2, V3 version of Netflix. And so in a way, Netflix got to go. I'm sorry, you've been around for a while, but we have other options here that are more appealing, and they do it better, and they still and they have a slick product. I'm gonna gravitate towards that.
HBO Max's interface is vastly inferior to Netflix, though, in terms of like
absolutely
pushing play, scrubbing through the next thing, like way less good.
Yeah,
they're getting better, but it's way less good. It's interesting to me that what we're saying is Netflix's strength for a long time was having a huge catalog, having a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe it wasn't all good stuff, but you could go there and you could find something, is now one of their biggest hindrances and weaknesses. And the point that like other streaming services were really trying to hammer them on, which is we're going to make good content that you really want to see. Come to our service. Netflix has a lot of stuff, but you may not find like the really great top tier stuff here that you're really going to be into.
Well, a lot of their stuff got poached when the other services decided to go off and do their own thing. Don't forget, a lot of the Netflix's catalog when they were peaking partially was because no one else had a big streaming service, so they had everything. They had a monopoly.
But
once
they knew,
other people
and they
realized
saw that coming, which is why they opened up their own studios and everything.
Yeah. But we've talked about how for their original content, they still lean into the binging model, which I think has backfired in their face compared to literally what HBO and Disney do not do that. They do weekly releases, and I don't think it's coincidence that that's not for no reason is what I'll say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I wonder if Netflix will do that where they move to where it's like anything that's new gets released week by week or whatever, and then anything that's old, then you can binge it if you want.
They did it. I think maybe it was a different service. No, I don't know. I think the binging culture is a really tricky thing to navigate because I think this is a case of consumers not knowing what they actually want, and so it's really hard because you might get a lot of backlash for something that people are viscerally mad about, not realizing you'll be more invested. Like it sounds even like greedy corporate talk, but it's like, nah, even from what we've literally seen, y'all will be more invested if we drip feed this.
Yeah. All right, so the Crossing Stream's inaugural award goes to HBO Max. Congratulations,
well
HBO.
Ooh, they're pushing it out like kidney stones.
Oof. That hits home for some people.
We'll accept our $1,000 bribery check in the mail. Please send that payable to Confidently Wrong.
Green light a second season for my show.
last question before we wrap up here then. Savon, if you were going to rank these in order from top to bottom, where are you going? You guys already know mine. It's going to be, well, it's kind of the order I put them in, except I would switch probably Hulu, HBO, and Disney around. I would put probably Disney at the top, then HBO Max, then Hulu, then we're at Netflix, Apple TV, and then Amazon Prime. Savon, what's your order?
From least favorite to favorite?
Oh, whichever direction you want to go, just tell us.
All right, I'm going to just start from the ones at the bottom. So I'll put Apple TV at the bottom. Then I would put Amazon Prime above that.
Okay.
Then I would probably put Hulu. Oh, actually, I probably have Hulu like tied with Netflix. Actually, no,
Okay.
Disney Plus. I put Disney Plus.
Okay. Fourth.
And then
Third.
Disney Plus fourth. And then Hulu and Netflix are kind of tied. They could kind of go either way, but HBO is at the top.
Are we letting him get away with that, Brian? A tie for second?
I missed it. I was
He
thinking
was
about
thinking
my
about
own.
his own.
I would cut.
I'm trying to be prepared.
I'm saying the important thing is HBO at the top,
That makes
Apple
sense.
and Amazon at the bottom, and then out of those other three, kind of in the middle, could kind of go either way, but Disney would probably go first.
Okay. All right.
I
Brian?
value replay value, and I don't
Yeah.
think Disney Plus has a lot of replay.
Yeah, I mean,
value.
I feel like it's pretty similar, right? Like the middle of the pack, like any given day could be something different.
Okay.
But yeah, at the top to bottom, I'm probably go HBO Max, Hulu, maybe Netflix or maybe Disney Plus. I think actually I'd pick Netflix over
Okay.
Disney Plus. And so here's another thing. I think I'd pick Apple TV over Amazon Prime, even though I have already said I don't watch any Apple TV. But there is, like, in the back of my head, I know that there are aspirational shows on there
that
I want to watch.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even
That's
though
not
I
ridiculous.
might never get around to it, like, I don't have a subscription. I don't know. And that's a very weird thing. And then
I think that's reasonable though, because in a way you're not paying for Amazon Prime. Right? So you can't be like, "Oh, I've got Amazon Prime and I don't have Apple TV Plus, so therefore I must value Amazon Prime more." It's not that. You literally just got that thrown in with your Amazon Prime shipping.
which I don't even have. Like, that's that I get from my wife.
Yeah.
So
Smart.
yeah. It's like a package thing. And right, and like Apple TV Plus is like, if you get an Apple product, maybe you'll have it. Right. So yeah, I don't know. It's a mixed bag.
Yeah,
down
I
at
think
the
Apple
bottom.
TV is one to keep an eye on, as like maybe they're increasing, but I think they just don't have enough yet for me to say like, yeah, that even $5 is probably not worth it right now. I've canceled my service with them. So actually, me and Savon came out with Disney Plus on top as our number ones. Is that right?
Wait, what?
Or you said HBO Max was top?
Well, Disney Plus was like
Okay.
fourth. That was
Fourth,
like like my middle of the pack. It was like fourth place.
Okay, so you were HBO Max, Brian's HBO Max on top, and I'm Disney Plus on top. Interesting.
Wow, Wes,
All right.
Really?
says the dad.
I do like HBO Max though. That's
Your baby's not even old enough to appreciate Disney Plus, so that's just you.
Yeah.
Those are the two I click
For
on
real.
the most. Disney Plus and Netflix are Disney Plus and HBO Max are the ones I click on.
What
the
are you
most.
watching on Disney Plus with replay like multiple times?
You know how many times he's watched Moon Knight episode 5?
Like
We'll
I
talk about it
literally,
now.
I watch it to open like my scheduled viewing shows, those couple, and then
Yeah.
I don't open it for anything else. Like,
Well, I
what else are
don't-
you watching?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
the
never
thing, though.
looking for
I'm not.
content on Disney.
No. Oh, I do.
No.
But also, I mean, I'm also just not watching a ton of TV. So because I'm watching Moon Knight, because I'm watching Loki, because I'm watching all these things, like it just ends up being that I
That's
end up on
everything you
Disney Plus
watch.
quite a bit. It's a large proportion of it, at least.
Okay, that's fair. That's not ridiculous.
All right. That'll wrap up our show. Confidently_pod. Hit us up on Instagram. Don't hit us up on Twitter. Nobody's monitoring that account. Visit our sponsors, HBO Max and Warner Brothers. And we're out. We'll see you next week. Bye.